Welcome into the Sports Objective here tonight. Whatever time you're listening, I am Dave Richmond, along with, ladies and gentlemen, my good brother from a different mother, Bubba Rosenbaum. How are you, man?
Doing well, Dave. How are you?
Well, very excited. Our guest tonight is someone we think, our first guest tonight, we think a lot of. He actually started with us way back the first year that we started. He was nice enough to come on, summer of 2018, I believe, Bubba, and glad to have him back.
Absolutely. We enjoy talking East Carolina, South Florida football with the play-by-play voice, Jim Louk. Obviously also does the television side of things for men's and women's basketball. Jim, welcome back into the show.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Pre-show, before we get started about basketball and we want to touch on football, your job is amazing with all the content that's out there. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that if we can for a few minutes about what you guys have going on. I know the American and the digital network, and then we have obviously the individual schools providing content, as we were just talking about the ESPN. Can you talk a little bit about that? I know that your job has been very interesting the last year and a half or so, right?
It's changed a lot. You know, when I first came to South Florida, our only broadcasts were men's basketball radio. That was it. There was no football team at that time, and none of the other sports got on the air. And now, of course, we've got everything on the air. We've got two digital networks through the iHeartRadio platform that run 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So you can imagine the content that chews up. And we run a lot of classic games from years gone by, as well as new content and specialty shows on those. And then all schools in the American are in the first year of the new ESPN Plus deal, where we are sending our full-scale broadcasts for ESPN Plus, about 55 broadcasts every year. It's going to be a lot of basketball. We've already done about a dozen men's and women's games on the ESPN Plus platform, have about 10 more to go before we switch over into the spring sports like baseball and softball. And of course, at USF, this is going to be quite a spring, because springs are usually the busiest time of the year. And this year, in addition to all the normal things going on, we have all the fall sports that didn't get a chance to play in fall because of COVID. So along with spring football and the two basketball teams, baseball and softball, we've also got men's and women's soccer and volleyball going on. And we're trying to broadcast as much of it as we can. So it's very busy.
And how are the fans? They've got to be real excited I was just telling you before the show how much I'm a broadcast nerd. And when it comes to sports, I'm very happy to see we're kind of shining a light on you, if we will, for these Olympic sports, especially a lot of sports that we love that we can't get to because we work for a living, Jim.
Well, and it's especially a good time to do this, because fans are limited at the events themselves. In basketball, here in Tampa, 10,000 seat arena, the maximum capacity is about 1,200 fans. So there's a lot of people that have not been able to get in and see the teams firsthand. Decision is still to be made on the rest of the spring sports, whether there'll be fans allowed or not, but certainly they won't be at full capacity for baseball and softball and soccer. So it gives people an alternative if they can't get out and get a ticket, or if they don't feel comfortable yet going to a live event, they've got an opportunity to watch on TV.
And Jim, as far as I could talk to you for hours on that particular subject, so I don't want to shift gears. I want to talk some basketball and football before you go. As far as basketball is concerned, with Brian Gregory, the coach there, I know you guys have been happy with him. How are things going so far at South Florida?
This year, up and down. They're a hard team to figure right now. They're 6-5. They're 2-3 in the conference. They have not been very consistent, not only from game to game, but sometimes from half to half within games. They had two early conference games where they had double-digit second half leads and weren't able to close out either one of them, and lost both of them. Last night against Tulsa, really struggled, only scored 51 points. game before that, they had a really strong game and beat a good UCF team. So there's certainly talent there, but they've had a hard time putting together consistent results. And as a result, it's hard to tell you what you might see on Saturday against East Carolina. When they're on, they are a good basketball team, but they also have had some scoring droughts, and they've had some periods of time where they've really had a hard time protecting the basketball and have hurt themselves with turnovers.
Jim, two guys the Pirates certainly know a lot about are David Collins and then Alexis Yetna. Yetna, of course, missed last season with an injury. I'm glad to see him back for his sake, for sure. And talk about those two and everything they bring to the table.
Two good players, certainly. Collins is in the top 10 all-time in scoring at USF. He recently set the American Athletic Conference record for most made free throws. Yetna is a guy that the team really missed last year when he was hurt. One of the things he has added to his repertoire this year is a three-point shot. He's about 40% from three, which really changes his game and creates a lot more matchup problems. But those two guys are also, in a sense, a pretty good example of the consistency issues. Both of them had big games in the win over UCF. Last night against Tulsa, Collins did not score. Yetna didn't score until the final moments of the game, wound up with 4 points. So it was kind of a mystery to watch that game unfold as we did it on television last night. They're two leaders on the team. They are tremendously capable players, but like many of the Bulls, they just haven't been as consistent as you might think they would be.
Jim, as far as the team is concerned, when you talk about not being consistent, how much of that, I hate to blame everything on COVID, but how much of that do you think is that, or is it just maybe the chemistry or the balance of the team itself?
It's always hard to say. Everybody's dealing with the same thing. We all know that, one team doesn't have any advantage over another in dealing with COVID. They've been able to practice fairly consistently. They haven't had a series of games canceled or anything, but there's no doubt that, schedules are different. And it's much more challenging to conduct business. Coaches have talked about, road trips, how different road trips are. A lot of coaches like to use road trips as bonding experiences, as experiences for the student athletes to see other cities and do a little thing, outside of prepping for the game. Well, this day and age, it's get in, get out. I mean, you're there to play a game and you're in the hotel room and then you're on the plane and you're home. So it's definitely a different atmosphere. Maybe that's part of it, but I just think there's some things that haven't quite clicked in yet for this team that probably will before this season is over.
And Jim, as far as you as a broadcaster, how hard is it broadcasting games when the fans aren't there? It just seems like you and there's so many great play-by-play voices around the country that really feed off a crowd. Or I know you guys are great at what you do anyway, with or without fans, but has it been more difficult for you to call a game?
I hate it. It's just totally different. Football, we played one football game with no fans, the first game of the year, literally. So 65,000 seat stadium empty, and it was just creepy. They had smaller crowds for the rest of the season. It helped a little bit. We got into basketball in the non-conference schedule. There were no fans whatsoever, and they started bringing in the limited fans at the beginning of conference season. Basketball was worse than football. I don't know if it's because it's indoors and it's enclosed or not, but it's really different, and the game workers do a great job putting music in, and a lot of the stuff that's on the scoreboard is run just like normal, as if fans were there to kind of create that atmosphere. But it's really different. Basketball, we don't have the band there live. It's It's different. I think everybody's looking forward to the day when it can be a full house again.
And as far as East Carolina is concerned, 7-2, and whenever it doesn't matter what the sport is, Jim. When the Pirates are winning, then the fans are just filling up. Basketball has been down for so many years, but Joe Dooley's turning things around. He's doing great with the recruiting, and I think it's great that we have you guys and a lot of great partners in the league that really, the basketball league is really a power. It is a power league, and it's a big boy league, and so he's able to recruit very well. And I hate it, the very fact that he finally, season 3, he's turning things around. You can finally see it, and guess what? There's no fans. When we cover the games there, it's so weird to see nobody there. You can count the number of people that are in the arena.
Yeah, and it's interesting how all the arenas are laid out as well. Our broadcast position is up on the concourse level. I've never done basketball games not being on the floor. I mean, there's a couple places on the road that don't put you on the floor, like Rutgers and a few others, but for the most part, you're right there. And we had a situation last night where the officials were debating a call and going to the replay and obviously looking at videotape, and every other time that happens, one of the officials will come over to you out of courtesy, and he'll talk to you and say, hey, we're looking at this. This is, what we're trying to figure out here, so we can relay that on the air. Well, can't do that. We're 75 feet off the floor, so there's no conversation. So we kind of missed that last night too.
Well, I know Bubba had a question regarding Coach Scott with football. Bubba, I'll pitch it to you.
Yeah, we were talking about the atmosphere at the games this year. Obviously, Jeff Scott and that offense with the Bulls really improved as the season went on. Just looking at some of the numbers, I know really put up a lot of numbers against UCF in a shootout. So just talk about what was the mood like after year 1 of Jeff Scott?
Well, I think you're right. I think there was a feeling of progress toward the end of the season, thanks in part to that offensive performance against UCF. It's certainly a transition in the football program here, and that is not something that the fans here are accustomed to. It was a very difficult season to get through, with a new coach, a new coaching staff, different offensive and defensive philosophies, and then you get to spring and you have literally one practice and everything shuts down. So if there was a good year to go through something like this with COVID, this wasn't it for USF, because you had a new coaching staff that wanted to build the culture and get their systems in, and they really had a hard time doing it. And I think that showed throughout the season as well. There remains a lot of optimism. This team's going to look a lot different next year. There are the roster changes that you tend to see happen with a new coaching staff. If they don't happen immediately, they usually happen about a year in, and that's what's been going on in Tampa for the last few weeks or so since the season ended. He's looking into the transfer portal, has some intriguing options there, had a good recruiting class that he signed in December. So there's optimism here, but there's also an understanding that this is a big rebuild here, and it's going to take some time to get back to where South Florida was for so many years. But Jeff Scott has a lot of believers here. There's a really good feeling about what he's doing in terms of turning this thing around.
It's hard to know, but how many years do you think that the fans will be patient, knowing that you guys have had so much success in the program until recently, and now he's taking over the program when he is his dad. When you get him, you get his dad, and his dad, of course, is going to help him, and all that brings, and of course the coaching staff that he has. I think he did a nice job there. So is that like a 3 or 4 year rebuild? Will the fans be patient for that?
Fans will be patient for about 10 more minutes. I can tell you that for a fact. And good for them, because, you want your fans to be demanding and to want the best for your program. It's always hard to tell, especially in these times. I mean, we don't know what 2021 football looks like. I mean, I hope it's back to normal, but we don't know if there's still going to be factors with that. What's spring ball going to look like? I think that's going to be really, really important to the timetable here. As soon as things can get back to normal, it's going to help this program tremendously. But again, he's a guy, you don't have to spend much time around Jeff Scott to realize that he is really a winner. He has a great culture that he's building with the team. And I think there's going to be success here, and I think it's going to be fairly rapid.
And Jim, final question: when do you have a date scheduled for the spring game where fans can pay attention?
Kicking it around right now. I don't know that they've settled on the date yet. It's trying to squeeze all these sports into a
Right.
very small window. So I think they're really looking closely at schedules. I'm sure it'll be sometime in April, but I'm not sure we've nailed down a date yet. We may have other stuff going on at the same time, looking at the other team's schedules. So we'll see where it lands, but I'm sure it'll be in April.
It's almost like drink a lot of coffee. You can watch 10 ball games in the same day. Like a super fan like Bubba Rosenbaum and myself, we would be like a kid in a candy store for sure. Jim, how can people follow your work in all the great sports there at USF? Would love to check it out myself.
My Twitter feed at USF Jim Louk, Louk, and the general website for the department, gousfbulls.com.
All right. Well, appreciate all the time here tonight. I know you're very busy and a lot going on, on and off the air. Thank you for the time. Enjoy the visit and look forward to have you back really soon.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. That's Jim Louk, play-by-play, longtime play-by-play voice of the USF Bulls. We appreciate all that he does for broadcasting. Bubba, he's fantastic. And he came on with us in July of 18. So he's one of the first guests that we had, certainly. And the first year, it means a lot for him to come back on, and busy down there in Tampa with a lot going on. And I know with wrestling and talking about 19 sports. Bubba, speaking of which, sports local, close to home, East Carolina had a big announcement, didn't they, today?
Indeed. Something that we had heard rumored for a few weeks now, and it came to fruition today. The Pirates adding back two of those sports that we had cut back in May. Of course, women's swimming and diving, as well as women's tennis.
Very excited about that, and we have comments. Let me know when you're ready, Bubba. We'll play those. We've got some audio cuts there of this afternoon's press conference. Very excited. We talked to the folks, Lindsay and all the folks that save ECU swimming and diving, and they're going to come back on with us very soon. Appreciate them. A very happy day for them. When I saw the news, I thought about Coach Rick Kobe and then Lindsay and all the people that came on our show back in May. Was very sad to lose such a great sport there. And I know that, and I'm hoping that Coach Matt Jabs, I'm hoping he'll be reinstated as a coach. I know Coach Kate Moore, she has moved on to a different team. I'm not sure if she'll come back being East Carolina as her alma mater, but we'll see. But Matt Jabs, that would be fantastic. Bubba, I know you have the audio ready. Do you want to play that, what you have right now, the clips from this afternoon's press conference?
Yeah, we have the opening comments from East Carolina Director of Athletics, John Gilbert. It's about 2.5 minutes, and we'll go with those right now.
Impact. While we were able to partially address the unprecedented financial challenges faced by the department by announcing the cuts of the 4 teams in the spring, we knew then, as we know now, that compliance with Title IX and, more importantly, meeting our commitment to our female athletes would require more action. Prior to announcing the elimination of men's and women's tennis and men's and women's swimming and diving teams, ECU engaged a Title IX consultant to advise the university on how to best address ECU's compliance with Title IX while addressing the financial issues. As you are aware, Title IX compliance requires universities to meet one of the 3-pronged tests. We must meet prong 1, or working towards prong 1 with proportionality. that's enrolled is proportional to our overall representation of our student body. We did have an increase in our enrollment, female undergraduate enrollment this fall. Part of meeting that proportionality is managing the roster sizes of both our men's and women's sports. This will be and continue to be an ongoing process for our coaches. That process has certainly been disrupted with the extra year of eligibility granted by the NCAA due to COVID. Equality in our athletics program and a commitment to compliance with Title IX are core values of this institution, our athletic department, and me personally. It's vital to the sustainability of ECU athletic programs that female athletes have real opportunities to compete in sports. Our commitment is to reinstate these two programs and continue to recruit student athletes at our university. As noted in the press release, we will work with the institution, a consultant, to develop this gender equity plan. This process of reinstatement will begin immediately. We will work to the hiring of staff, recruitment of student athletes, etc. I'll be happy to open it up for any questions at this time.
All right, that's the opening comments of the athletic director, John Gilbert. Reinstating women's swimming and diving and women's tennis. Bubba, a big day today. I'm very happy. I want to obviously have men's swimming and diving and obviously men's tennis back, but I won't hold my breath just yet. But anyway, I'm very excited that we got at least half of those back.
Yeah, very excited that those two sports are back. I did expect that it was for the Title IX reason, which it is. They had heard from lawyers back in November, some part of November, and that's something that you'll hear referenced in some of the comments that we still have headed your way. He was asked, John Gilbert, by the East Carolinian in terms of adding two sports back after the budget issues and the ever-growing budget issues. And then also we have comments from Dr. Ron Mitchelson, interim chancellor, and also John Gilbert on Title IX and the impact of everything there.
All right, are we ready for those comments? Well, while we're getting that ready, just very excited, very happy again. Don't want to repeat myself, but certainly it's a great step forward. We need to do a better job of raising money. That's what we're going to have to do. We can't rely on football, as we talked about many times, as much as we want to. But when you have something like COVID that nobody anticipated, nobody knew about, but we have to have different revenue streams to certainly make the world go round. And I think Bubba's ready now for the East Carolina Athletics Director, John Gilbert. And this is him on adding the sports with ever-growing budget issues.
Relates to our budget. Our budget has not changed. We still have the same issues in May that we have today. Those have been exacerbated by COVID and the many revenue buckets that have been affected. We will work on funding these through our operating budget. We have done an extremely good job. I do think that both our staff and our coaches have done an excellent job of savings. I think between all the decisions that were made in the month of May, certainly the salary reductions, furloughs, operational budget savings. I believe to date we've saved north of $9 million in athletics, and so we've had significant savings. We still need to generate revenue, and that's where our issue is. But I am hopeful that that will be coming in the near future.
All right, that's East Carolina Athletic Director John Gilbert. And talking about adding the sports back, and whenever there's a deficit, and we don't know how much deficit, it's in the neighborhood of at least 20 to 25 million, at least 20 on a good day. But the good news is that this pandemic won't last forever, And we will get football back where the money's starting to come in, and basketball is getting good in men's and women's, but especially men's basketball. I think that can be profitable. The same thing with East Carolina baseball is just north of profitable, I believe. A lot of times you're lucky to break even or not make money on baseball, but we do at East Carolina. And I tell you what, very excited about the sports coming up. And again, very happy to have East Carolina women's swimming and diving and ECU women's tennis back.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And earlier I referenced those comments from Dr. Ron Mitchelson and John Gilbert. It was in response to a question from Ronnie Woodward with the Greenville Daily Reflector. And let's hear those thoughts from Dr. Ron Mitchelson and John Gilbert right now.
All right, I have one for the Chancellor and then a follow-up with John Gilbert. So I'll go to the Chancellor first. Since I know the letter in November was originally sent to you, in your opinion, if that lawsuit wasn't threatened from Arthur Bryant and that group, if that didn't happen, would we be here today? What role did that have in this happening?
You know, that's a good question, Ronnie. We knew that we had to make adjustments. And roster management was going to be the primary tool. But it became clearer and clearer, even through self-scrutiny of the numbers, that because of increased a female proportion, and we're headed towards a 60-40 split, female and male, at the university level, that we were going to have difficulty doing that simply with roster management. So I think the adjustments were going to be more dramatic through time. I can't tell you if we'd be here today, but it could be.
And then, John, from the athletics side, and we look at maybe the competition, just look at some numbers today, it's the men's swimming that has won the conference championships recently, and that side of it, I think it's been almost 20 years since women has won a conference championship in 2003. Is that a factor? You know, what I'm getting at is the Title IX more of the over and exclusive factor compared to actual competitiveness in bringing the women back, but not the men?
Well, we knew that we needed to provide it, additional opportunities for our female student athletes and our female population. And obviously, as I mentioned in May, specific to the swimming programs, the respect that I have for what our coaches and swimming alumni have achieved, in the history of our men's swimming program. But this specifically was related to providing additional opportunities for our female student athletes.
All right, John Gilbert there. You're listening and watching, obviously, comments. Great day for Pirate Athletics as we're bringing back women's swimming and diving and women's tennis. Very, very excited about it. I hope at some point we can bring back other sports. But certainly right now, that's a good start. And hopefully we'll learn from that lesson and not cut sports anymore. And those of us that are ready to get back in the swing of things, I hope that we can certainly go ahead and do me a favor and get vaccinated. Get the vaccine. Please get the vaccine. We're definitely want to say this real quick while we're getting things ready. Got my vaccine 9 days ago. I'm still doing fine. I feel fine. No side effects whatsoever. There are a lot of people in Pitt County on Monday. I know if you're 75 or older, they're at Vita Medical Center and obviously at the health department. They're going to be doing there all over Eastern North Carolina. I don't know for the western part of the state for my buddy Bubba Rosenbaum, but I know in the Eastern North Carolina, there's places like the health department and definitely with hospitals. So make sure that you check ahead of time. They're having hours and hours of wait, but it's well worth the wait if you can get the vaccine. All right, Bubba, I know we're ready to roll. I want to pitch it to you.
Yeah, the Pirates will be hosting USF on Saturday afternoon, 1 o'clock at Williams Arena Minges Coliseum. And earlier this afternoon on Thursday, we got the remarks from East Carolina head coach Joe Dooley as the Pirates look to bounce back following the tough loss at Tulane.
Well said, guys.
Coach, if you are ready, then you go right in.
Okay, well, obviously, a couple of days prepare for South Florida, and Had a couple of days of practice to try to iron some things out that we didn't do particularly well against Tulane. We'll practice this morning. We'll go again tomorrow afternoon, finish up our preparation for South Florida, who played last night against Tulsa, and hopefully get a little rhythm and get ready to play again.
Coach, you guys had the long break over Christmas, and with the Wichita postponement now, a pretty long break between Tulane and to now. How has that kind of affected your team? How have you guys handled that?
Well, I mean, I think like throughout the country, we're all trying to get in the rhythm, which is not going to be easy in any regard. Everything isn't like it's been, so it's a little bit unusual to not play. We play a game, have a week. It's not ideal, but it is what it is. So we try to get a little bit better, try to control what we can control. I think our guys will be excited to play on Saturday.
Personnel-wise, do you know? I know you can't name names and stuff, but do you have any players that won't be available Saturday?
We could have a couple. I mean, we've got. I think that's an ongoing deal. There's a couple guys that are a little dinged up, so we'll see how that goes. And but I think that's going to be like that all season. You're going to have to adjust. It's day to day. Trying to figure out, and it's not necessarily just COVID. It's like things happen this time of year. There's always ankle sprains and back problems, and so now it's just trying to figure out who you're going to have and getting the guys that you have prepared to play.
Coach, what did you see out in South Florida last night?
Well, it was a real very low possession game. It's unusual with the amount of points that Yetna and Brown were. Didn't have a big game. Castaneda's played very well. He shot as many shots as anybody, but. You do know what Yetna's capable of. You know what Collins is capable of. Brown has played well against us historically. And then, the Murphy kid is a terrific talent. He does some things from an athletic standpoint. You can't teach. Explosive, can create off the bounce. And I think Darrah's been a very steady influence the whole season for them.
Coach, will Tristan Newton be available on Saturday?
We'll just see what the medical people tell us. We'll day by day and trying to follow medical procedures.
Coach, obviously not having Tristan Newton and then Jaden Gardner not having a typical performance were factors at Tulane, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, here's the way we're going to view the whole year, in my opinion. It's going to be a year of adjustments and adapting. And, you could have a young man with put on his COVID deal that he had a headache tonight. You're not going to have him today for practice until he gets tested and you get a negative test back. So what you do is you take the next guy on the list, you plug him into that spot, try to get the guys that you have prepared, have them making sure that they're having some fun with it, making sure that they're safe. And you're just going to have to adjust on the fly on a daily basis. And that's, I think all coaches have had to think about things this year that we probably never had to think about before. That's hopefully will make us all better coaches.
Coach, obviously, if you don't have Jaden performing at the customary level, that's a factor. And have you addressed that this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a number of factors. He just didn't have one of his games. We didn't get him the ball some. They did a good job of taking it out, and he probably had 4 or 6 other points. I mean, there was actually 2 turnovers that when you're watching, or as a casual fan is watching, you yelling at the guards when, in all honesty, it was our big guys. And a couple of them, 1 or 2 of them involved him where he just didn't move to go get a ball. Had a layup on a play from Noah that just didn't catch what he usually catches. He's not going to be perfect. And we've been lucky that those games have been few and far between, as we all know. And it was a bad time for us. He wasn't in rhythm. We weren't in rhythm. And, some of that obviously is attributed to Tulane. Some of it was also attributed to our own ineptness.
Going off that a little bit, Coach, the turnovers from the last game, did you think that was more of you guys not valuing the ball, or was it some of what Tulane was doing? What did you kind of pinpoint there?
I saw some things that we hadn't seen all year, and either did you guys. And I do think with some of our offensive rhythm, when you really look at it, the guys that touched the ball the most didn't turn it over. And that being our point guards played 38 minutes and combined for 2 turnovers, with Noah and Tremont. The predominant amount of turnovers came from our frontline guys, and it was some pass and catch things. It was the just simple little things of meeting a pass. I mean, we threw the ball behind people, even when guys were open. We threw it at their knee. That's a concentration, and that's the biggest thing. We can all pass and catch, and when you throw a bad pass, it's a reflection you're not ready to play, or were a little sloppy, and I did think by the time we got in some type of rhythm, it was almost too late. And then next thing you know, you're down one, and James hits a big thing. That was that was a big play.
With South Florida historically, I mean, they play a lot of close games. It seems like every game you guys play since Gregory got there comes down to the wire. Do you kind of expect similar on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, it's when you look at their adjusted pace, it's a low possession game. We would obviously like to push it. Now they can play fast. Murphy and Collins are terrific in transition. Those guys are both, one man fast breaks. Collins, draws a lot of fouls. Murphy's about as explosive as they get. And my guess is after a rough day yesterday, Yetna and Brown and those guys will be ready and amped up to play on Saturday afternoon.
Coach, can you just talk about factors that kind of need to be in place to come out on top on Saturday?
Well, I think one thing is going to be, the possession is going to be given the ball shot, especially on our defensive end, because they're a very good offensive rebounding team. They rebound a very high percentage of their misses. Need to clean up the backboard. We do need to make sure that we take care of the ball, get a shot every time down in court, and then I would like to see us play a little bit fast. Against Tulane it's different because of the matchup zone, and with South Florida because of the amount of possessions. But I would like us to see us play a little bit faster offensively.
What is it about Jaden Gardner that makes him such a special player?
He's just got a knack. I mean, I think there's certain things that you can coach and certain things that you can't. He's got a feel for how to score. To tell you the truth, he's got a very awkward game. I mean, when you watch, it's not like he's a freak athlete. He just has a knack of, he catches you off guard. He's a little awkward shooting off the wrong foot every once in a while. Every once in a while, he'll catch it, shoot it before you even get a chance to go get it. And he does have a knack for drawing fouls, which we need him to get to the free throw line a little bit more.
This is more of a big picture question, Coach, but with the extra year of eligibility for, all the seniors, have you guys started to have those conversations going forward, especially with recruiting, scholarship counts, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, we've had some general conversations, and just, I think the biggest thing is I've had, initial discussions with some of these guys. I'm trying not to overwhelm these guys with too much right now. I think there's a lot of, put more on their plate and those type of deals, I think will confuse them even further. So we've had some preliminary ones. We probably won't start, trying to get a definitive answer till probably early February, just from his numbers count, so we can. And the flip side of that deal is, I don't think any of us as coaches want to have 16 or 17 guys either. I don't think that makes for a good, for a good program, especially with the one-time transfer coming in. I mean, you start, you bring in some freshmen and they don't play and they can transfer. I think that doesn't set a good tone. And, I do think we'll pare it down and probably hope to have 13, 14 guys and our walk-ons and sort of keep it in that ballpark.
All right, comments from Coach Joe Dooley on the big game, and that'll be on Saturday, 1:00 on ESPN Plus right here. Appreciate Coach very much as he's working hard, and obviously one of the big question, Bubba, we bring in Bubba Rosenbaum back in, is the guard Tristan Newton. Will he be back on Saturday? And what do you think, Bubba?
From everything I'm hearing, Tristan will be back. And then also somebody else, he was still able to play in the second half against Tulane the other day, but he was clearly not 100%, and that's Brandon Suggs. He had that left hamstring injury when he went down, and according to Coach Dooley, Brandon's doing pretty well and undergoing or getting the treatment and doing everything he needs to do to be 100% or as close to that as possible on Saturday against USF.
Well, certainly we were talking back the overtime, Bubba, as you know, on Sunday afternoon about how we would love to have a game. Obviously didn't come into fruition, but maybe it's to our benefit that we didn't have the game to give those two particular players healthy.
Yeah, like we had discussed, there would certainly be some positives to playing a game, but not playing a game, you make sure that guys like Brandon Suggs and then Tristan Newton, who's returning from COVID-19 protocols, that he's able to get back into action and be 100%. So when Saturday rolls around, And this Bulls team, you're going to see a low possession game, and it's going to be a premium on taking care of the basketball. We're going to have to return to, our typical ways of committing less than 15 turnovers. If we have in excess of 15 turnovers, probably not going to be victorious on Saturday.
This is kind of like with having the half-court possession kind of game like this is going to be. It's kind of like when you're playing Navy, in that a lot of these teams now are up and down the court so much, Bubba, with the transition and fast breaks and the like. And we always talk about in football how we have a whole bunch of possessions, but then when it comes to Navy, that seems like the one game that we have the least amount of possessions because of obviously running the football more with a triple option and that clock is running. In this particular case, like you talked about, they're going to be passing the ball around. They're going to be a half-court possession kind of game. And when you have that, that's limited time for fast break opportunities, for free throws of the like, a lot of things that we thrive on.
Yeah, and Coach Dooley said, as you just heard in his remarks, it may not happen against USF, but just generally speaking, he wants to see us play a lot faster, and hopefully we'll be able to make that happen. Something I meant to talk about on overtime after the Tulane game. Coach Dooley in some of his pre-Tulane remarks had said the main two areas he wanted to see improvement, was cleaning the defensive boards, not giving teams second opportunities. And I thought we did a better job of that. We out-rebounded Tulane by 7, and I think did a good job of not allowing second chances. But then you also had the inability to convert on the offensive end in the paint, and that continued to rear its ugly head against the Green Wave. So hopefully Jaden Gardner and others can finish in the paint against USF.
No doubt about it. And this is a game, Bubba, that we really, 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 I guess they could say the same thing about us, USF, but we really need this one really bad. And certainly when we had the Wichita State game canceled, but postponed, that'll be sometime in February. But we need this game really bad, a home game. Get a chance to those guys to be not injury free, but they'll be certainly better, closer to 100% than they were last time. And of course, Tristan with COVID. So I'm looking forward to the game. And I know, are there keys to the game for you? Or you're looking for simply obviously you definitely want less turnovers, but if there's ever been a game to have less turnovers, it's going to be on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, simply taking care of the basketball for sure, and then finishing close to the basket because I anticipate, this being a close game. So I think those two things are huge in a close ball game. And then also Alexis Yetna, like I referenced when we were talking to Jim Louk, he is back after being out a season ago with an injury. He was dominant, and I remember I was at the game in Minges. He really lit us up that day a couple years ago. When Riley and I were in attendance. So very interested to see how the Pirates defend Alexis Yetna and then also keep him off the glass.
And this is the type of game that we need to win if we want to have a chance of any kind of postseason beyond the conference tournament, Bubba. And who knows, right now it's just one game at a time. But we've got to have the conference tournament and, of course, the national tournament with the big dance or even the NIT. But if we're going to go to that particular level, then we're going to have to win these 50-50 games like I think the USF game is.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Got to find a way to get it done in these types of ball games. I was glancing at the American standings. Tulsa has been very hot of late. Of course, they had that victory over number 5 Houston in Tulsa. Yeah. Tulsa is 4-1 now, 7-3 overall. Wow. Houston has played well since being upset at Tulsa, and they had a big win. Without Caleb Mills, who's entering the transfer portal. He's a North Carolina native, and according to what Johnny Gardner was telling me, he's hearing that North Carolina, as much as we don't like to hear it, is potentially in the running for Caleb Mills, and we'll see what ends up happening with him. But Houston also and they picked up another big win. I'm trying to recall who it was against, and I think it was last night. Yes, they beat Wichita State on the 11th ranked Cougars 70-63 over the Shockers. And taking a look at the standings behind Houston and Tulsa, Wichita State's 2-1, 6-3 overall. SMU 6-1 overall, 2-1 in the league. Memphis is 2-1 in the league. South Florida's already played 5 league games, 6-5 overall, 2-3 in the American. And then you have East Carolina, Tulane, UCF that are all at 1-2. And then Temple is 0-2, having just played 3 games overall. 1-2 are the Owls. And then Cincinnati, as we've talked about, still looking for that first win in the American, and 2-6 overall after having lost 5 straight.
That's amazing, but we're going to definitely do well. I think certainly we'll have to see how things play out, Bubba. We're having to literally in our lives 1 minute at a time, right? And so we'll see how we'll do one game at a time. Not coach speak, but that's the way COVID is. But anyway, we'll do that. And I know that we've got some great programming coming up, Bubba. And also we've got some other stuff we're working on. We'll talk about that too.
Yeah, sorry, a little bit of a lag there. Didn't mean to step on you, but we have overtime, of course, on Saturday afternoon, or actually Saturday evening. We'll catch up with you probably about 7 o'clock as we take a look back at the Pirates and Bulls doing battle at 1 inside Minji's. And then also here in the next few days, probably starting either on either tomorrow or Saturday, we will have 23 Jungle Tales. It won't necessarily be 23 consecutive days this year, but between now and first pitch, whenever first pitch is, be it mid-February or maybe even a little bit later, we will talk to 23 former East Carolina baseball players from a variety of eras. And the first one will be Calvin Brown. We'll catch up with the former Pirate first baseman. And I was only 9-10 years old at the time. But I want to say Calvin, maybe DH some as well. But Calvin was a tremendous talent. I want to say he's living up in the Northern Virginia or Maryland area now, and look forward to catching up with Calvin Brown.
No doubt about it. And of course, we'll have our North Carolina Division I preview, college baseball, and we'll do that. We'll take a look at that around the great Old North State. As they say, we'll have that here pretty soon. In the next month or so, we'll be rolling that out, as they say. So we've got a lot of work to do behind the scenes, but certainly, folks, please take care, be safe. The numbers of COVID are up, and please get vaccinated because you know what? We're getting ready to leave here, but I want to remind folks that if you want fans in the stands in Dowdy-Ficklen, if you want to have the opportunity to have, wouldn't that be great, Bubba, to have even 25, 30,000 fans? If we even have 50% capacity in 21.
Yeah, hopefully that will be the case, and hopefully it'll be 100%. But yeah, 50%, and we got to have some sort of cash coming in from season tickets or just tickets in general, concessions, and everything that comes along with a game day at Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Obviously, that would be great. But again, that sounds like an eternity away in September. Good news again today, repeating before we go, East Carolina bringing back, and that is the women's swimming and diving team, and women's tennis. And thanks so much for all of you listening to the Sports Objective. Thanks to our greats, obviously one of our great friends, Jim Louk, the play-by-play voice of the USF Bulls, and all the stuff he does behind the scenes for their broadcasting. And of course, Bubba, thanks to all that you do for us behind the scenes as well. You work really hard, and people don't see that or hear that. So thanks for all that you do. Until next time, you've been watching and listening to the Sports Objective. Good night, everybody, and go Pirates.
You